Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into something I think a lot of us can relate to.
Okay.
That feeling of being stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily unhappy,
Right.
but not exactly thriving either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I do.
And we're going to explore this through a really interesting source.
Okay.
A Reddit post from Surge at Disciplined.
Oh, urgent disciplined?
Have you heard of it?
Yeah. That's a great community for practical advice.
Right. In this post, someone shared their experience of hitting their 30s
Okay.
and feeling completely stagnant.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about how 5 specific books helped them get back on track.
Interesting.
And get this, the post blew up. Over 2,600 upvotes.
Wow.
So clearly this feeling of being stuck resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, it makes sense, especially with everything that's happened in the world recently.
Right.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel like you've lost momentum.
Totally.
So let's unpack the original poster's experience.
Mhm.
They talk about turning 30 and having all these expectations for this exciting new chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But then the pandemic hit.
Right.
And the next few years just kind of disappeared.
Yeah.
They weren't miserable,
Okay.
but they weren't truly living either.
Right.
Just stuck in this loop of work,
Yeah.
endlessly scrolling online,
Mm.
and unfulfilled plans.
That feeling of inertia is something I think we've all experienced at some point. It's
Yeah.
like being stuck in a holding pattern,
Cool.
unable to gain altitude.
Exactly. And it's not about laziness,
Right.
as their therapist pointed out.
Okay.
Often it's our brains feeling overwhelmed and stressed,
I see.
leading to major resistance to change.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Our brains prioritize survival, so when we're stressed, they prefer sticking to familiar routines,
Yeah.
even if those routines aren't serving us well.
The therapist also highlighted how doom scrolling
Oh, yeah.
isn't just a bad habit,
Right.
it's a coping mechanism,
Okay.
a way to numb ourselves out
Mm-hmm.
and avoid uncomfortable feelings.
Yeah.
Think about it. Haven't you ever caught yourself reaching for your phone
Oh, all the time.
the second you have a moment of boredom
Yes.
or anxiety?
It's like our brains are seeking a quick dopamine hit to escape those uncomfortable feelings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes what we perceive as a lack of motivation
Okay.
is actually a lack of clarity.
I see.
If our goals are vague,
Uh-huh.
like exercise more,
Yeah.
our brains don't know how to translate that into action.
That makes sense.
We need concrete,
Yeah.
specific steps
Right.
to really get moving.
Our brains work best with clear instructions.
Totally.
Vague goals just leave us feeling lost and unsure where to begin.
Yeah, here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The therapist recommended 5 books to the original poster,
Okay.
and they said these books were absolute game changers.
Cool.
Let's briefly introduce each one before we dive deeper.
Sounds good.
First, there's The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
I've heard of that one.
This one's all about understanding and overcoming resistance,
Okay.
that force that stops us from doing the things we know we should be doing.
Pressfield makes a compelling case that resistance is something we all face,
Right.
and recognizing it is the first step to overcoming it.
Next up is The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist.
Okay.
This book dives into the deeper reasons behind self-sabotage,
Okay.
often linking them back to past trauma or fear.
Interesting.
It offers strategies for essentially rewiring our brains for healthier patterns.
Weist really emphasizes the need to go beyond just treating the symptoms of self-sabotage and actually address those underlying emotional and psychological factors.
Then we have Dopamine Nation by Dr. Anna Lemke.
Okay.
This one explores how modern life, with all its constant stimulation, can
Yeah.
overload our dopamine systems,
I see.
leaving us feeling restless,
Hmm.
unmotivated,
Yeah.
and stuck in a loop of seeking the next quick hit of pleasure.
It's a fascinating look at how our brain's reward system can actually work against us in a world of constant stimulation.
Right.
Lemke provides practical strategies for restoring balance to our dopamine system.
The 4th book on the list is The Happiness Trap by Dr. Russ Harris.
Okay.
This one tackles the power of our thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and how negative self-talk can trap us in a cycle of unhappiness.
Right.
It introduces the principles of acceptance and commitment therapy,
Oh, interesting.
or ACT,
Oh, okay.
to help us manage difficult thoughts and emotions.
ACT focuses on accepting our thoughts and feelings without judgment
Right.
and then taking actions that align with our values.
And finally, we have Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg.
Okay.
This one ditches the overwhelm of massive life changes
Yeah.
and instead encourages you to start with ridiculously small changes to build momentum.
It's all about making new habits easy and rewarding so they become integrated into our daily routines.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 5 books, each offering a unique perspective on feeling stuck. I want to highlight a few takeaways that really struck me.
Okay.
And of course, you can add your thoughts too.
Sure.
In The War of Art,
Mm-hmm.
the idea that overcoming resistance is a daily battle, not a one-time victory.
Right.
That was really powerful.
Yeah, it's about showing up and doing the work even when we don't feel like it.
Right.
It's like being professional in any field,
Mm-hmm.
like a writer,
Yeah.
an athlete, an artist.
Right.
They don't wait for inspiration to strike.
Totally.
They show up and do the work consistently day after day.
Exactly.
That's how mastery is developed.
And in that goal, I resonated with the idea that we need to understand the root causes of self-sabotage, not just treat the symptoms.
Yeah.
It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we just need more willpower,
Right.
when actually there might be deeper emotional patterns at play.
Exactly. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet by just wiping up the water.
Right.
You need to address the source of the leak to truly solve the problem.
From Dopamine Nation, the concept of dopamine fasting really intrigued me.
Oh, yeah.
It's about intentionally abstaining from things that give us those quick hits of pleasure.
Okay.
Social media, junk food video games,
Right.
to reset our reward system and rediscover joy in simpler things.
If you think about it in the bigger picture,
Yeah.
it's about recognizing that constantly chasing those dopamine highs can actually diminish our capacity to experience pleasure over the long term.
Total.
It's like overstimulating your taste buds.
Right.
Eventually, everything tastes bland.
And in the happiness trap,
Mm-hmm.
I found the ACT approach to dealing with difficult thoughts and emotions really insightful.
Okay.
It's not about suppressing or eliminating those thoughts,
Right.
but acknowledging them without judgment and
Yeah.
choosing to focus on our values and goals instead.
It's a shift from trying to control our thoughts and feelings to simply accepting them as part of the human experience,
Totally.
and then choosing to act in alignment with what truly matters to us.
And let's not forget about tiny habits.
Right.
It's amazing how such a simple concept, making small changes, can have a huge impact.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to overhaul your entire life, you focus on taking tiny, almost effortless actions.
Right.
Like instead of aiming for a 30-minute run, you just put on your running shoes.
Exactly.
Or instead of trying to write a whole chapter of your book,
Yeah.
you commit to just one sentence.
The beauty of that approach is that it sidesteps our natural resistance to change.
Mm-hmm.
By starting small, we build momentum and create a sense of accomplishment that motivates us to keep going.
Totally.
We're essentially rewiring our brains to associate those desired actions with positive feelings.
Now let's move beyond the books themselves and into the comments section of that Reddit post.
Okay.
It's a treasure trove of relatable stories and advice.
Yeah.
One commenter talked about how they spent their 20s and 30s focusing solely on relationships, and now at 40, they're finally prioritizing themselves.
That really highlights how our priorities and needs evolve over time.
Yeah.
Right.
What might have been fulfilling at one stage of life
Yeah,
might not be what we need in another.
exactly.
It's about being open to reassessing our values and goals as we grow and change.
Another commenter echoed that,
Okay.
saying they'd also use relationships as a barometer for their happiness, and were now shifting their focus to finding happiness within.
I see.
There was a lot of support for the idea of self-love as a foundation for change.
So true.
Yeah,
We can't pour from an empty cup.
right.
Taking care of our own well-being is essential
Mm-hmm.
if we want to create positive change in our lives.
A lot of people also connected with the idea of starting small and celebrating those tiny victories.
Yeah.
One person shared how they'd finally started exercising again by just doing 5 push-ups every morning.
Oh, wow.
Another started reading more by committing to just 2 pages before bed.
It's fascinating how these small wins create a positive feedback loop.
Totally.
They boost our confidence and motivate us to keep building on those successes.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus away from the intimidating enormity of our goals
Right.
and onto the manageable steps we can take right now.
But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows in the comments.
Okay.
One person pointed out the difficulty of embracing self-love as a starting point,
I see.
highlighting the internal struggles many face with that concept.
And that raises an important question.
Yeah.
What does self-love actually mean?
Right.
It's not about narcissism or self-indulgence.
Right.
It's about recognizing our inherent worthiness,
Yeah.
treating ourselves with kindness and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and prioritizing our own well-being.
Another commenter expressed the fear of failure,
Oh.
wondering what would happen if they tried to change, but ended up back where they started.
Mm-hmm.
That fear of starting from zero resonated with a lot of people.
That fear of failure is a powerful barrier to action.
It is.
But it's so important to remember that failure is an inherent part of growth.
Right.
Every setback is an opportunity to learn and adjust our approach.
I like that.
And as one commenter wisely said, we never truly start from zero after a failure.
Yeah.
We always carry the experience and knowledge we gained along the way.
You know, as we're exploring these ideas, what really strikes me is that so much of this resonates with the concept of self-compassion.
Totally.
It's not about beating ourselves up for feeling stuck,
Right.
but rather understanding the underlying reasons
Yeah.
and approaching change with kindness and patience.
Absolutely. So often when we feel stuck, we fall into a cycle of self-criticism, which only makes things worse.
Right.
Cultivating self-compassion allows us to acknowledge our struggles without judgment and create a more supportive inner environment for growth.
Totally.
It's about recognizing that you're doing the best you can with the resources you have at this moment.
And that ties in beautifully with the idea of celebrating those small wins.
Exactly.
Imagine you've been feeling stuck for a while and you finally managed to implement a tiny habit, like doing 5 push-ups every morning.
Right.
That might seem insignificant,
Yeah.
but it's a victory worth acknowledging.
Absolutely.
Those small wins build momentum and reinforce the belief that you are capable of change.
Precisely. It's about shifting your focus from the enormity of the goal to the small, manageable steps you're taking right now. Instead of getting discouraged by how far you have to go,
Right.
you can celebrate how far you've already come.
I love that.
It's a powerful way to cultivate a growth mindset and build resilience.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the feeling of being stuck and the various paths to overcome it.
Yeah, it has.
As we wrap up, I want to circle back to something we touched upon earlier.
Okay.
The idea that this isn't about reaching some magical destination
Right.
where we're suddenly unstuck forever.
I think that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
Life is a continuous journey of growth and evolution. There will always be new challenges, new obstacles,
Right.
and new opportunities for growth.
Totally.
The key is to embrace this ongoing process and develop the skills and mindset to navigate it effectively.
Right.
Feeling stuck is often a signal that it's time to reassess, adjust, and continue evolving.
So it's not about arriving at some perfect state of like unstuckness.
Right.
It's more about embracing that journey of
Yeah.
growth and change.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that we're all constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And that feeling stuck is just a natural part of that process.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation.
It has been.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Okay.
If our listener could choose one tiny habit
Mm-hmm.
to start implementing today,
Yeah.
what would you suggest?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Um,
What small action could they take that would be meaningful and help them feel less stuck?
it really depends on the individual and what resonates with them.
Okay.
But I think a powerful starting point could be simply incorporating 5 minutes of mindfulness each day.
5 minutes of mindfulness.
Yeah.
That's doable.
Yeah.
How would that look in practice?
It could be as simple as setting a timer for 5 minutes and focusing on your breath.
Okay.
Or maybe doing a quick body scan meditation,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to any sensations you're feeling.
Yeah.
The key is to create a brief pause in your day
Right.
where you can observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's such a simple yet powerful practice.
Yeah.
What benefits do you think incorporating those 5 minutes could have?
Well, mindfulness helps cultivate self-awareness,
Okay.
which, as we discussed, is crucial for understanding the patterns that keep us stuck.
Mm-hmm.
It also helps us regulate our emotions, reduce stress, and improve our focus.
Right.
Those are all essential ingredients for creating positive change.
It sounds like even those 5 minutes can make a big difference.
Absolutely. It's about making those small, consistent efforts that compound over time.
Yeah.
Remember, even tiny habits can have a ripple effect, leading to bigger and more meaningful shifts in our lives.
So if you're feeling stuck, take heart.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And there are so many paths you can explore to break free.
Absolutely.
Start small, be kind to yourself, and celebrate those wins along the way. You've got this.
And remember, the journey itself is where the real growth happens.
Yeah.
Embrace the process and enjoy the ride.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful and empowering. Until next time.